Microsoft has just released two new models called Mage Flow and Mage Flow Edit. One is a text-to-image model, and the other is an image editing model. The best part is that you can now run both of them directly inside ComfyUI. So in this video, I've thoroughly tested both of these models to see how well they actually perform. For a compact 4B model, the results are decent. I'll also be comparing them side by side with the Qwen 2511 image edit model and the Krea 2 edit model using the same settings, so you can clearly see the strengths, weaknesses, and overall image quality of each one before deciding which model works best for you. And while you're here, don't forget to like this video and follow the page. It really helps support the content. Now let's jump straight into ComfyUI. As you can see, I've already prepared the workflow. Let's start with this image of the girl holding the phone. Over here we have the Load Diffusion model node, where I've selected Mage Flow Edit Turbo BF16 along with the VAE and the Load Clip node. If you don't see the new Load Clip option or your nodes look different, simply update your ComfyUI to the latest version because the newer nodes are required for these models. For our first test, let's use a simple edit prompt. Change the girl's t-shirt to white. I'm using the Turbo variant with a CFG value of 1, which is what Microsoft recommends for the Turbo model. And here's the result. Let me put the original and the edited image side by side so it's easier to compare. At first glance, it actually follows the prompt correctly. The t-shirt color changes, but if you look closely at the face, you'll notice it has a slightly plastic or AI-generated look. That's one of the limitations of this model. Since it's only a 4 billion parameter model designed for fast inference, image quality, especially for realistic human faces, isn't always perfect. Now, let's try a different sampler. Previously, I was using Euler Ancestral, but now let's switch to the regular Euler sampler while keeping the rest of the settings almost identical. The previous generation took around 91 seconds, but that's because my laptop wasn't plugged into the charger. When connected to power, the same generation usually finishes in under 10 seconds on my RTX 4060 laptop. Now, let's compare the output. I've also compared Mage Flow against Qwen Image and the new Krea 2 image edit model. To keep everything fair, I used exactly the same image, the same resolution, the same prompt, the same sampler, and the same number of steps. The only thing changing is the model itself. Everything is running with 4 steps, Euler, and the exact same settings. Here's the Mage Flow result. And here's the side-by-side comparison. Immediately, you can see that the regular Euler sampler produces noticeably better results than Euler Ancestral. The plastic-looking skin is still present, but it's much less noticeable compared to before. Now let's try another edit. This time, the prompt is simply, change the t-shirt to green. Instead of using the custom sampler, I'm now using the standard K-sampler. And honestly, in my testing, the K-sampler produces much better looking results with Mage Flow. As you can see, the edit quality has improved and the image looks slightly cleaner. Now let's compare that against Qwen Image. Again, it's the same source image, same resolution, same prompt, same 4 steps, and the same Euler sampler. Here's the Qwen Image result. Personally, I think Qwen performs significantly better than Mage Flow when it comes to realistic people. If you compare them side by side, you'll notice that Mage Flow still produces that plastic-looking skin, especially around the face. Even details like the way the t-shirt fits and folds look much more natural in the Qwen Image output. Now let's move on to Krea 2 Turbo Edit. Again, exactly the same settings, exactly the same prompt, and here's the result. And honestly, Krea 2 is easily the best out of all three. In my opinion, there's really no competition here. The facial details are cleaner, the clothing looks much more natural, the textures are sharper, and overall image quality is simply on another level. So, if you're working on professional projects or you care more about image quality than generation speed, I definitely recommend using Krea 2. Of course, we're still waiting for Flux 3, which should be releasing soon, and based on everything we've seen so far, it could raise the quality even further. But as of right now, Krea 2 is my personal favorite. Now let's test the Mage Flow text-to-image model. I'm using exactly the same workflow with the new text-to-image checkpoint. Here's the prompt. Latina female with thick wavy hair, harbor boats and pastel houses behind her, breezy seaside atmosphere, warm side lighting, cinematic close-up. It's a fairly simple prompt without any complicated prompt engineering. and here's the generated image. Honestly, the text to image quality is pretty decent considering it's only a 4B model. However, I still wouldn't put it in the same category as models like Krea 2 or Z Image Turbo, especially if your priority is maximum realism. This image was generated at 1024 times 1024, although the model is capable of generating larger resolutions as well if your GPU has enough VRAM. Let's try another prompt. This time it's a luxury fashion editorial photo shoot prompt. Feel free to pause the video if you'd like to read the entire prompt. Again, I'm using the regular Euler sampler. This generation took around 159 seconds on my RTX 4060 laptop GPU with 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and remember, my laptop wasn't plugged into power while recording this. With the charger connected, I'd expect the same image to generate in roughly 30 seconds or even less. So overall, the speed is actually quite impressive for a model of this size. As for image quality, I'd call it decent. Not bad by any means, but it still doesn't compete with something like Z Image Turbo, which consistently produces cleaner and more realistic images. Finally, let's take a look at the official Hugging Face page for Mage Flow. Here you can see all the available models, documentation, and the official showcase examples. When I first tested Mage Flow, I honestly thought I might have configured something incorrectly because the faces looked a little too smooth and plastic. So I went through Microsoft's own examples to double check, and interestingly enough, even in many of their official showcase images, you can still notice the same plastic-looking skin and occasional facial artifacts. So it's not really a workflow issue, it's simply one of the current limitations of the model itself. Finally, for anyone wondering where to place the files inside ComfyUI, the Mage Flow diffusion model goes into your Models, Diffusion, Models folder. The text encoder goes into the Models, Text, Encoders folder, and the VAE goes into the Models, VAE folder. There are both INT8 and BF16 versions available, so choose whichever best suits your hardware and VRAM. And that's pretty much everything you need to know about running Mage Flow inside ComfyUI.